And the flood itself is very interesting, what caused it. If you look at verse 11 of chapter 7, it says this, "In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the second month, on the 17th day of the month," and we're going to look at these dates in just a moment, "on that day all the fountains of the great deep were broken up, and the windows of heaven were opened. And the rain was on the earth 40 days and 40 nights." What's interesting, we understand what the windows of heaven are, right? Rain. It's the fountains of the deep that are very, very interesting. Because this not only is perhaps subterranean water, but most likely, and what we see, if you look at the planet, you can see that there was some time when the volcanoes were on high speed. I mean, there is so much volcanic activity. I mentioned the Columbian Plateau in the northwest part of the United States, 200,000 square miles of eruptions. At the current rate, there are 500 active or semi-active volcanoes in the world. There are 1,500 dormant or inactive volcanoes. There are 2,000 altogether. If all 2,000 of them went off right now, they couldn't do what we have seen as far as the volcanic eruptions that are on this planet. So God opened the fountains of the deep. And the flood was caused by falling rain, erupting water from under the earth, as well as the volcanic effect. It must have been a horrific time for those who were here on the planet. Well, I want to show you tonight, real quickly, the schedule of the flood, because I was sharing this with someone else. It's very interesting. This is unusual how the Bible describes to the day when things happen. And maybe you're someone that just zips along, you don't even notice this. But I want to show you, starting in chapter 7, verse 1, the chronology of the flood, and maybe you'll kind of get excited like I did. If we count the year of Adam's creation as year 1, then Noah was born about the year 1056. If we just take all the numbers as they are, and they must be in there for some reason, saying that this guy lived so long and this guy was born, etc., etc. But if you do that, Genesis 6:3 indicates that God gave Noah 120 years to preach and build the ark. Therefore, he was about 480 years old when he started. Why do I say that? Because it says in chapter 7, verse 11, that in the 600th year of his life, it all started. So if it started in the 600th year, and if he had 120 years to build it, then he was 480 when he started, and he did it for 120 years. And I just believe they did it in 120 years. And I was reading someone that calculated how fast people can build. Now, some of you are contractors, and you know about that. Just a normal person is just building along, and, they're not in a hurry, and they're not, at the coffee machine all the time. It would take Noah and his sons about 90 years to build a 1.5 million cubic foot building, if they just build it by hand. That means they had about 30 years extra. Maybe they had to go out and cut the trees down. I don't know. Maybe they bought them. Doesn't matter. But what it says is that God gave them 120 years to do it. So the year that Noah went in, look at verse 11 of chapter 7, in the 600th year of Noah's life, and that would be the 1536 known year afterward, the flood came. And so the flood came on Noah's 600th year, and the 27th day of the second month. What's the second month of the Hebrew calendar? It's our present month of November. So you know when the flood happened? November 27th in the 1650-something year after creation. That's really interesting. Here's what happened. They entered the ark on November 10th. The floods came on November 17th. And December 26th, the rains end. That's the 12th verse. And it says, and the rain was on the earth 40 days and 40 nights. So 40 days later, the rain stopped. The ark rests. Look at chapter 8, verse 1. On April 17th. It says there, God remembered Noah and every living thing, and all the animals were with him in the ark, and God made a wind to pass over the earth. The waters subsided. The fountains of the deep, the windows of heaven, I'm reading verse 2 of chapter 8, stopped. The rain from heaven was restrained, and the waters receded continually. Look at verse 4. Then the ark rested in the 7th month, the 17th day of the month, on the mountain of Ararat. April 17th, the ark rested. The next thing that happens is in verse 6, he sends out a raven and a dove, 6 through 9. Verse 10 of chapter 8, the dove brings back the branch. This is now the month of August. I mean, they were in that ark from November to November. I mean, they were in that thing a long time. They leave the ark on November 27th, 1 year later.